Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Sam's Long Balls podcast with me, Dan. Now, today I am going to be doing a build up to the big game at the weekend, or for me, at least, the biggest game of game week 3 as a Liverpool fan, because Liverpool go away to their biggest rivals, Manchester United. We go away to Old Trafford on what could potentially be dubbed as a bit of a relegation scrap. Obviously, obviously a bit tongue in cheek there, but it has been a pretty poor start for both teams, more so for Manchester United. The new era of Eric Ten Hag coming in, it's looking more like, the worst of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now. I fully expect things to change. And I kind of expect things to change, you know, this weekend, to be perfectly honest. If Liverpool play the way that we have been playing with a high line, I do feel that you know, we've got a very easy opening for the likes of Sancho and Rashford and potentially Martial if he plays to just run into green space behind, and then the expectation for Alisson to save us over and over again. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that we see a slight change in tactics, a slight change, um, in approach. Although I'm not fully expecting it. But before we talk about my team, Liverpool, let's talk about Manchester United because it has been a really really poor start. I spoke about it in a video the other day just very briefly, that was when it was the first game when Brighton went away to Old Trafford. It absolutely wiped the floor with United. Let's be perfectly honest here. The physicality, the passing, the pressing from Brighton was too much for Manchester United to handle. Okay, things like that can happen. They went away to Brentford. Now, I thought that this game would actually be tough for Manchester United. I certainly wasn't expecting a 4-0, but I was expecting a draw. I thought a 2-2 draw away at Brentford. Someone like an Ivan Toney, big, strong, physical striker, can cause a lot of problems for this Manchester United defence. So I did fully expect to see a draw. I was not expecting to see 4-0 down at half time. Hilarious, yes, but pretty surprising. So Manchester United do look like they're in a pretty rough spot at this moment in time. They certainly look to be in a worse place than Liverpool. But Liverpool themselves really, really struggling. The Palace game was a nightmare for me to watch. I was in Bruges at the weekend. It started off brilliantly, watching Manchester United lose 4-0. And then, of course, I had this sort of feeling deep down that Liverpool were going to ruin my holiday. But it was a strange game to try and analyze, really, because I thought Liverpool played pretty well for large parts of it. The intensity was there, the passing was more crisper, they were stronger, they were more aggressive, they created more chances, they looked more. Um, they just looked more like themselves, which is certainly what you couldn't say for the first game against Fulham, where Fulham bullied us, they harried us, they created chances for fun, and we looked all over the place. Whereas I thought against Palace, we had a sort of element of control, certainly up until the first goal. However, however, you just knew it was going to happen, didn't you? I don't know if this is the sixth game in a row now where Liverpool have conceded first. Look, it's as the saying goes, goals win your games, but defense wins your titles. And the frustrating thing is Liverpool's defense is good, certainly on paper, and we've seen what they can do. Virgil van Dijk is a world-class player. Alisson Becker is a world-class goalkeeper. Fabinho is a world-class holding midfielder. However, we are gifting opposition chance after chance after chance after chance in games. Um, and I feel like we're playing with one arm tied behind our backs at times. And a large part of that is because of the high line. And I know some people will go, well, look, we played the high line for quite a while now. We played it last season. We did pretty well. We played every single game and we won 2 trophies. I get that. Absolutely, I get that. But even when you're playing brilliantly, when you play the high line, you're playing with a bit of hope. No matter how good the defense plays, you're hoping that the opposition strikers fall into that offside trap time after time. And eventually they're not going to. And we can talk about last season, how brilliant last season was. But Alisson Becker was one of our players of the season. Now, okay, that's great to have a fantastic and brilliant goalkeeper. Of course, it's something that you want. But to have a goalkeeper that's called into action as much as Alisson was in the majority of games last season, for me, is uncomfortable. I would say, and I think a lot of people would say last year, that Alisson was probably the best goalkeeper in 1v1 situations last season. But I think a big reason for that is because he was in those situations too much. Liverpool can play brilliant football. They can dominate a game. They can create chances for fun. But Alisson will probably be in a 1v1 situation at least 2, possibly 3 times. And that's what happened against Palace. A lot of credit goes to Vieira and Palace, and rightfully so. But I don't feel that Palace had to play amazingly well. They sat back, played a low block, flooded that penalty area, and then it was one ball, 2 passes maximum, and they were in. And I don't like it. I feel that Liverpool are too obvious. I wouldn't say easy to play against, but I'd say we're too obvious to play against. My issue at the moment is with Liverpool, as it was 2 seasons ago when we had that really awful season with all those injuries, and we just wouldn't change our tactics, is Liverpool could be playing a team that's top of the league. We could be playing a team that's bottom of the league. We could be at home. We could be away. We could have our first team out. We could have 11, 12 injuries and be playing with a mix of first, second, and third team players. And Klopp will want to play the same tactics. He'll want to play with the high line. Now, a part of me looks at that and goes, well, credit for that, fair play. He's not going to abandon his tactics, his footballing philosophy, if you will. I hate using the word philosophy in football. It does seem a little bit ridiculous, but I admire that to a degree. I also think it's a bit stubborn and it's a little bit foolish. And we saw that 2 years ago. And as bad as that season was 2 years ago, we were top on Christmas Day. And then the injuries got too bad. And you just think, with a manager as good as Klopp and players as good as these, I would like to see a little bit more flexibility, And like I just said, wherever we go, no matter who we play, that Liverpool are probably going to camp on the halfway line. They're going to play that high line. So it gives an opposition opportunities. If they have a quick player in there, he could have a field day against us. But anyway, enough talking about the Palace game. Let's talk about the big game coming up: Manchester United versus Liverpool. Really hard one to predict this. I'm going to do, as you can see here in the background, I've got my team. Not that I would necessarily want to see or play. I'm trying to predict what Jurgen Klopp would do. I'll talk about that in a minute. Manchester United, how are they going to play against Liverpool? They themselves might try and play a high line, which I kind of hope that they do, especially if Maguire plays, expose his lack of pace. That's what happened, what Palace did to Phillips. I felt so sorry for Nat Phillips on last Monday night, out on that right-hand side of Trent bombing forward, 1v1 versus sort of the likes of Eze and Zaha. He was going to be crucified, and he was. So no blame really attached to him. So if Manchester United play that high line, I certainly hope that we can do something similar to Harry Maguire. We've seen a few training videos, or I don't know if you guys have seen a few training videos of Manchester United players. They've sort of been released. Seen a little bit more of Van der Beek. There's a few rumours that he's going to start the game. He might start in a midfield too, alongside Scott McTominay. A lot of emphasis on pressing and trying to win the ball high up the pitch. I personally, although it would be a risk, I would like to see that from Manchester United, because I would, as a Liverpool fan, I want to see a team try to press us. I want to see a team play a high line. Of course, they can win the ball off us, and cause problems. I'm sure that will happen, but if you're Eric Ten Hag and you want to win this game, or you want to take a point from it, I think you would take a point right now. I think you just do a carbon copy of what Palace did. Just sit back, play a low block, and hit Liverpool on the counter-attack. Because, okay, hopefully the likelihood is we'll have Joe Gomez back for Monday, and he will be, he's a different animal to Phillips. Phillips is bigger, he's probably stronger, but he's slow. Whereas Gomez, he's probably more athletic. He's got more of that pace. But still, if you're Ten Hag, you think, I would pack that penalty area, low block, and every time you've got, someone like a Christian Eriksen playing a little bit deeper, potentially, ping it over the top onto the likes of Sancho, Rashford, and Martial if he's fit. It's what Palace did, and they created chance after chance, and they should have won. They should have won that game on Monday night. Obviously, a large part of that down to a little bit of a stupidity move from Darwin Núñez. Not a massive fan of him at the moment. I must admit, hated seeing that. Hopefully, though, he'll be back soon enough and be a completely different player. But Manchester United, for me, just sit back, hit on the counter-attack. That would be the simpler tactics. Maybe the Manchester United fans wouldn't want to see that being at home at Old Trafford. They might want to see more aggressive football, might want to see like prettier football on the eyes. And Ten Hag himself, of course, doesn't play that way. But if you've just seen the team in Palace um, take a point off us, could have very easily taken 3 points off. I think you should just do a carbon copy of that. I don't think he will. I think Ten Hag will want to play a higher line. I think he will want to press from the front and play his style of football, which I hope he does, because although that will potentially cause us problems, um, I also feel that that would create space in behind for the likes of Diaz, and in particular for someone like Mo Salah. If he can get 1v1 with Harry Maguire, you know, we could be in luck. So this is going to be the starting 11 that I believe that Jurgen Klopp will go with. Alisson in goal, because of course Alisson in goal, unless there's any injury problems. The fullbacks, Trent and Robertson. There's been a few calls for potentially Robertson to come out and Kostas Tsimikas to come in. Look, Robertson is our best left back. You know, Tsimikas had a very good season last season. I want to see more of him. He came on in the game against Palace, I think last sort of 25, maybe 30 minutes. He didn't have a good game. Look, Tsimikas hasn't had a pre-season. He looked like it. He looked very rusty. So to throw him in away from home at Old Trafford would be nonsensical to me. So Robertson and Trent to start. Van Dijk, centre back, coming for a bit of criticism with the goal that we conceded to Zaha. I personally think that's a little bit of nonsense. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. Lovely. People saying, "Oh, he could have done better." He gives Zaha that space. I think it's rubbish. If you watch it again, Fabinho has a bit of a shocker, which we will talk about in a minute. Phillips is he's just left in the dust. He's never going to get anywhere near Zaha with it. So, Van Dijk sprints. He puts on the afterburners. He gets close to him, and then people go, "Well, why didn't he just carry on?" Well, if he carries on at full speed, he potentially clatters into Zaha like he did to Mitrovic a week ago, gives away another penalty, and then potentially and likely will get a red card. And then we're down to 10 men. And then obviously with Darwin Núñez, we would be down to 9 men. Also, if he does that, it gives Zaha the opportunity to cut back inside, and he's got the whole goal to aim for. So what he does is he cuts off the space. And actually, I think he does quite a good job defensively. And then all Zaha can do is aim for that far corner, and he backs Alisson. Now, you just have to turn around and give credit to Zaha and say he picked his spot. He only really had one spot to go for. Both Van Dijk and Alisson closed as many gaps as they can. And Zaha had a fantastic finish. And this is football. These guys aren't perfect. There's no perfect defender. There's no perfect striker. You're not going to win every single challenge. You're not going to score every single chance. It's nonsense. And that stupid stat of like Van Dijk hasn't been dribbled past in a number of years. It's just these stupid social media, Twitter, football experts. They're basically kids. They just troll when they go, "Oh, look, Van Dijk's done something stupid." He did the best he could. You just have to give credit to the opposition and say Zaha, he scored a very, very good goal. I think Joe Gomez comes in. I'd imagine Phillips would come out. I hope Phillips comes out for his own sake. Kanate still out. I imagine Matip is probably still going to be out. So that, I imagine, will be the back five. Now then, in midfield three, no place for Harvey Elliott for me. I do think Harvey Elliott will come on, especially with the 5-sub rule. We do have that opportunity to bring him on, also along with sort of someone like Carvalho, potentially. One of the reasons why I think he will leave Elliott out is I think he wants to go with a bit more experience. Potentially, I think Henderson, Fabinho definitely start. It might be Milner. I'd imagine it will be Keita, though, because Milner started against Palace. I think he wants experience going away to Manchester United, first of all. Secondly, Harvey Elliott, look, he's a young man. He's a bit of a hothead himself. He's a huge Liverpool fan. Away at Old Trafford, I'm just seeing this, Harvey Elliott potentially getting a little bit wound up, maybe a red card. So I think he wants to go with an experienced midfield, a calm midfield, and then potentially bring on the youngster Elliott later on. You'll probably notice that I've put Elliott, talking about Elliott. I've put Naby Keita on the left-hand side. I think he will replace the Thiago role. Talking about Naby Keita, there's strong reports coming out that he's going to leave. He's apparently very unhappy. Liverpool might be happy just let him go for free next summer. I don't really understand Liverpool's policy in this transfer window regarding midfielders. I really, really don't. There's some strong rumours that Navigator wants to go now. So this whole midfield situation just gets worse and worse. So some conflicting reports saying that Navigator wants to go now. Others saying that no, Liverpool are very happy with him. That they're trying to give him a new 4-year deal, and then he hasn't expressed his unhappiness. I don't know, but I think he starts this game, and I hope he does, because I'd say he's being underwhelming as a Liverpool player, overall. But we know that the talent is there, especially with Thiago out, and our lack of creativity against Palace at times. Other than Elliott, he can get on the ball, and he's got that quality to find those passes. Had a brilliant game there last season, so hopefully he can do something similar. These two start, and you're probably wondering, did I mess up their positions? Well, actually, no, I did this on purpose, because Klopp has been talking about Henderson in the number 6 role. I've been talking about Henderson in the number 6. Millions of Liverpool fans, it feels like it, are talking about Henderson in the number 6 and rotating in and out with these two. So either Fabinho starts here or Henderson starts here. Fabinho, for me, he had a poor end to the season. He looked knackered. He was injured anyway. So you think, right, okay, he's going to come back fresh. He had a really poor preseason for me. He was pretty awful against Fulham, and I thought he was awful against Palace as well, especially for the first goal. He looks tired. He looks leggy already, which is a bit of a worry when, this is only going to be the 3rd game of the season. So I really, really hope that Fabinho can play himself into form a little bit more. The reason why I've put Henderson here and Fabinho a little bit in front is something I noticed with the Palace game. Now, I didn't see the game live in the sense I wasn't in the stadium. I was watching it on my phone in Bruges. So when you watch it on TV, you only get obviously you can only see part of the pitch, so you don't get the full picture. Whereas if you're watching the game live, you can see everything. But what I did notice is when Henderson came on later on in the game, I think for the final half hour or something like that, him and Fabinho were in deep conversation. And this might have just been because but it was after Darwin Núñez had got sent off, so Liverpool had to change their formation. They had to change what they were doing. So maybe I'm overlooking into this, but it wasn't a case that Henderson goes to Fabinho. Yeah, you're in the 6, I'm in the 8. There was a big conversation. It kept looking like Henderson's going like, I'm the 6, I'm the 6. And from what I could see, on the TV, it always looked like Henderson was in a deeper position and Fabinho was getting further forward. And at times it looked like they would interlink. Sometimes Fabinho would drop down and Henderson would go further forward. But I found that quite interesting. I might be completely wrong. It might have just been sort of the camera angle. It might have just been the tactics on that particular night because we were down to 10 men. But it was something that I was intrigued by, because actually last season Fabinho went on that really good scoring run, didn't he? And over his time at Liverpool, he does get a few goals. He does get a few assists. He certainly gets more than Henderson. And I do think it could be interesting or a decent tactic to see, especially, in this game. Play Henderson a little bit deeper in front of these guys, providing that defensive option. And when he gets the ball, play those 40, 50-yard passes, especially if Manchester United are going to play a high line and press us. Then he has got that ability to find these guys. And then the idea of pushing Fabinho just a little bit further up, along with Keita. Keita is a fantastic at pressing the ball and winning the ball high up. And I feel that Fabinho could do the same. And when he's in and around these positions, he can shoot, he can score, he can get assists, probably more so than this guy, and potentially maybe more so than someone like an Elliott at this moment in his career. So I have a funny feeling that we might see something like this from time to time if these two play. Henderson dropping a little bit deeper and Fabinho actually having a little bit more license to roam and be that box-to-box player. Some of you might be thinking, you're talking absolute shite, mate. And I might well be, but I don't know. This is what I saw towards the end of Palace. At least that's what I thought I saw. So it'll be interesting. It'll be certainly interesting to see. I would love to see Harvey Elliott, but I don't think he starts in a game like this. Up top, Diaz on the left. He was insane, wasn't he? The final sort of half against Palace, just a one-man team. He was the Terminator. He was just up and down. He was mental. Mohamed Salah, people saying he had a pretty poor game. I thought he was decent against Palace. Had a couple of opportunities, snatched at them, playing against a low block. He looked like a threat. And obviously, once Darwin Núñez went off, he certainly struggled, but I don't think he had a poor game by any stretch of the imagination. And anyway, Salah's always going to play, isn't he? There's been some talk of potentially moving Salah through the middle and Elliot on the right hand side. Again, no, not for me. It wouldn't be something that I would particularly want to see. And if Firmino is fit, I think you start him. He tends to have quite decent games against Manchester United. I think he'll be a handful. I think we can look at Martinez and go, he's really struggled up against some physically big centre forwards. So that's why people were excited about the idea of Darwin Núñez going up against him. But actually, I think Firmino would be the better option. I do think Liverpool tend to play better with Firmino on the pitch. Obviously, we didn't when we had Fulham, but one interesting thing that I saw against Palace is once Darwin Núñez went off, we seemed to play a lot better. I don't know whether that's these guys got angry and especially this guy, he was just on another level. But with Núñez, and it's not Núñez's fault, we just seem to keep going long with him every single time. We just go long and it's not working. And Liverpool are a team that are better when they keep the ball on the ground. And I hope that's something that we see with Darwin Núñez. Yes, he's a big guy. We can mix it up a little bit more so we can go in the air from time to time. But look, he's a very good footballer, Darwin Núñez, so he can play with the ball at his feet. So this is obsession where, we've got a taller striker. No, let's cut that out. So I think with Firmino, hopefully he will press from the front. He will also drop deep. Again, he is a more technically gifted player than Darwin Núñez. He's probably our most technically gifted player in the team, to be perfectly honest. I also think that Martinez has gone on record to say that Roberto Firmino, was the most difficult striker he's come up against. There's a quote there, and I might be wrong, but I remember reading something like that. So Firmino has caused Martinez problems in the past. So, and he's also caused Maguire problems. So this would be the team that I think is going to play. I have a fear if Liverpool go there, play with a high line, and Manchester United do a bit of a Jose Mourinho, what they did a couple of years ago, sit really deep and then get Rashford 1v1 with Trent Alexander-Arnold, running back on these areas of the pitch. I can see a Manchester United win. I think if Manchester United are pragmatic, defend really, really well, have low blocks, and spray the ball into these areas of the pitch and can sort of get 1v1 with Alisson, it could be a really good day for the likes of Sancho and Rashford. However, if Ten Hag is insistent on playing his style of football, and that means playing a high line, pressing from the front, and trying to play sort of possession-based tiki-taka football, I feel that it might fall into Liverpool's trap a little bit. Manchester United have got very good players, and look, they're a team. Well, they're not a team, are they? I guess that's the problem with Manchester United. They're 11 individuals, but they have got real quality out on that pitch, and they can score goals. They can cause damage to anyone, especially at Old Trafford. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if the game even goes on, because I know that there's planned protests. Anyway, that's not really for me to talk about. I'm not a Manchester United fan. I don't know enough about the Glazers, so it wouldn't be right for me to sit there and talk about the planned protest. But if it does go ahead and the game is cancelled, my own opinion, I do believe that Liverpool or any opposition should be awarded the 3 points. I know that sounds a little bit petty, but this happened 2 years ago. I don't want to see it happening again. I get the United fans. I certainly understand. I remember when we had Hicks and Gillette as our owners, and we had protests, and I always support fans doing that, but I don't support the idea of having games cancelled for things like that. So, but yeah, it's not really for me to talk about. So this is the 11 that I think that Jurgen Klopp will go with. I think if Ten Hag plays pragmatic football, I think there could be something in this for Manchester United. But if he wants to play his style of football, I believe that maybe Liverpool could go on and win this game. And I'm not expecting like a 4 or 5-0 win like it was last year, but there could be a couple of, we could score 2 or 3 against this Manchester United team. And I think Manchester United, they look like a weak team at the moment. They look like a team that is vulnerable. They look like a beaten team. So if we're able to stave off the first sort of amount of pressing and pressure, which you would imagine would be there, if we can hold that off and maybe hopefully play a deeper line and play counter-attacking football ourselves, I think we'll win the game. And I'm going to go with 3-1. 3-1 Liverpool. I don't think any team's going to keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go with 3-1 Liverpool. I think if Manchester United play the way that they played in the last two games, if Ten Hag insists on carrying on with his style, I think Liverpool could go on and win this game, play counter-attacking football. I think he'll go with experience in the midfield, so that means the likes of Elliott and Carvalho won't start. But I would expect to see them come on at some point. So hopefully a 3-1 win. But yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, down below. Do you agree with me? Do you think Liverpool are going to win? Do you think Manchester United are going to win? What's going to be your starting 11 for Liverpool and for Manchester United? So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. Give the video a like if you enjoyed this, and subscribe for the channel for more long balls footy talk. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon.